Hello everybody and thank you for joining me. This is Sierra from Sierra T Designs and today I have for you another Snowflake card. So let's jump right in. So I am making two Slimline cards because I have everything out, so I might as well make two. So I'm just going to cut down my cardstock. So I prefer to make my Slimline cards 7 by 8.5 and then scored at 3.5. So I take a standard size piece of cardstock, which is your 11 by 8.5, and then I trim off 4 inches because I have a small trimmer here. And that gives me the 7 by 8.5, and then I score it at the 3.5 mark. So I also like to make a black mat, and I will also trim down a colored panel. So I do eyeball a lot of my measurements, and you can see off to the side beside my trimmer there I have them laid out so that I can kind of eyeball it and then see how it looks with the base. So I had 2 pieces of cardstock there. They were both, I believe, 100 pounds. And then this is my panel, and this is actually some Hammermill cardstock. I've kind of switched over to Hammermill because it is easier for me to find in Canada, and it's a bit cheaper for me to get in Canada as well from the Neenah. I still use Neenah because I have a bunch, but I have found that this Hammermill is actually a bit easier, and it still works beautifully well. Works with Copics, works with ink blending, works with all of the techniques that I tend to do, so it's working out pretty well. So here you guys can see I have the huge Misti. My husband got this for me for Christmas, which I think is amazing, and I think that it's perfect for when you want to stamp off of your panel on a Slimline card, because I do have the medium Misti, the original one I guess it is, and it doesn't really allow me to stamp off of the edge, especially if you need to do it off of multiple edges of your cardstock, and I'm going to do that here because you can see this stamp is quite a bit bigger than my Slimline card, and I'd have to stamp off of multiple sides. So I busted out my new big one that my husband got me for Christmas, which is super exciting. So this is the first time I'm using it, and I'm loving it. It's a little bit of overkill, I think, but it's just so big and so fun to play with. So I did stamp out the Simon Says Stamp Center Cut Snowflake stamp, and here you can see that I'm going to emboss it with some white embossing powder. I'm going to do some ink blending. You saw from the starting images, you know where we're going with this. So I'm going to hold it up in here in the light so you can kind of see it. I know it's hard to see. White on white is not exactly the easiest thing to pick up in the camera, but I'm kind of trying to show you the general idea of where I'm going for here. So I did take out the sentiment center. We're going to stamp that down later and put it back in, but I didn't want it to stamp as the part of this part of the card. So I did that twice, heat embossed until it was smooth and melted, and now we're going to go straight into some ink blending. So this has to be one of my favorite ever Oxide ink color blends. This is picked raspberry into Seedless preserves into Speckled egg. I think Speckled egg is by far my favorite of the new colors. I haven't used Rustic Wilderness yet because I got it kind of late, and then I wasn't really sure what I want to do with it yet, so I have some ideas. Well, we'll bust it out here pretty soon. But Speckled egg is just such a stunning color, and I just love how it looks, and it goes with so many colors. Like, it's just such a versatile color. It's almost like a chameleon. Like, with this pink purple blend, it looks beautiful, but it looks great with grays, and it looks great. Like, it's just a beautiful color. So that's the blend I did on these ones, and I kind of just work it back and forth until I have a blend that I like. It doesn't need to be perfect, especially in the center of the snowflakes, because we're going to cover that up with the sentiment here later. And then I just took a clean piece of paper towel, and I'm just going to buff off any of the ink that's sitting on top of the ink blending and hold it up so you guys can kind of have a good quick look there. And then we're going to jump into the second card. So for the second one, I used Blueprint Sketch into Wilted Violet back into Picked Raspberry. So this is another, I love all of my oxides. I do tend towards bright colors. So if you guys have been with me for a little while, you know that I have a tendency towards really bright rainbows, that kind of thing. So of course I aim for bright colors, and it's a struggle for me generally to not use bright colors in pretty much everything that I make. But I tried to do a bit of a different color blend than the first one. Otherwise I would have just done 2 of the exact same because I love that other color blend. But I'm trying to branch out and do slightly different color blends. So I brought in some Blueprint Sketch, which I generally don't use very often, so I thought that was a kind of a fun color to add. And I don't get the perfect blend between the Blueprint Sketch and the Wilted Violet. You could, of course, work this some more if you wanted to. I didn't. It doesn't bother me that there's a transition there. I think that the colors look beautiful together, the three colors, so I wasn't too concerned that the transition wasn't a perfect ombre blend, but I still like how it looks, so you could absolutely work it some more if you'd like and kind of get a better blend. And in the center of the circle there, like where you see the pink and the purple aren't blended great, that doesn't matter because we're going to cover it up. So I did bring in my clean piece of paper towel again and just buffed off all of the ink that's sitting on top of that white embossing powder. And I'll hold it up there so you can have a quick look at both of them. And then we're going to flick on some Perfect Pearls mixed up with just some water, and I have it in a little mister bottle. And I just pull the wand out and kind of dab it on just across. And I'm kind of trying to do that same angle that the Snowflake stamp is on. It's on a bit of a left to right angle, so I kind of trying to follow that with my splatter, but it doesn't really matter where it gets. It's just meant to add a little bit of shine and a little bit of glitter in the background, which you guys know I love. So I just keep splashing that on until I'm happy with the amount that's on the background, and then we're gonna keep going. So this is where I brought in that center cut part from that stamp set, and I'm just got it on an acrylic block there. I'm going to stamp it out in the same Versamark ink and then heat emboss it with the same Brutus and Monroe Alabaster White embossing powder. And then I've got a little circle die on the right hand there, and it's just going to, I've measured it out, it goes around this stamp perfectly, so I'm going to use that to cut out the stamp so it's just that circle shape when I bring it back in, so it doesn't cover up any of the snowflakes. So if you guys have been following my Gemini saga, you'll know that I've been struggling to get the Gemini in, and then I didn't get it, and then I got refunded, and then I ordered a new one, and then it was late, and then got lost. It finally showed up. I have my Gemini now. I didn't use it for this video because it seemed a bit big for the little circle, but I do have it in. It is officially here. I have some videos where I'm going to use it to do some fun stuff with some Slimline cards that is coming. But if you stay tuned till the end of this video, I have a little surprise for you. So I popped those out after I ran them through my Big Shot, and now I'm just going to bring in my favorite Nuvo Deluxe glue and just glue everything down. I did put a little extra glue on the back panels of these because they were a little bit warped. Not much. This is a good, strong, heavyweight cardstock. It's a Hammer Mills, I believe, is 100 pounds. So it's a pretty like hefty paper. It's not bad for warpage, but there was a little, so I wanted to kind of make sure that straightened out on my black mat. So I was a little bit excessive in the glue, but I have a tendency towards a heavy hand when I glue things down for some reason. Not really sure why I do that, but and they're both going to be put together the exact same. They're both going to be the panel and then the black mat and then the side fold card base, which as I said was scored at 3.5, so it's a 3.5 by 8.5 inch card. There are other Slimline measurements. This is just my preferred because I find it the easiest way to use up a piece of cardstock. But yeah, that's kind of the way I lean. So then I'm just going to also use the same glue to glue it down to that card base. And then we're going to move on to the sentiment. So I did something a bit different when I glued down my sentiment this time. Generally, when I use foam squares, I just stick the foam square on the back and then glue it down. Or stick it down with the foam square. But I saw Amy R. try this, if you know who she is, Prairie Paper and Ink. She was using foam, like a sticky foam, and she added a little bit of glue to give herself a little bit of wiggle room around before it attached or adhered to what she was sticking it to. So I opted to try that with this. So you're going to see here in a second, I'm going to put some 3D foam squares behind my sentiment. And then I'm going to add little dabs of glue on top of them as I go to stick it down so that I have a little bit of wiggle time to make sure that my sentiment is straight. So here you can see I have the black 3D thin foam strips. Say that 3 times fast. And I just added just a little bit of glue onto them. And then I'm going to try to line it up. And before I press it down, that just gives you like a little bit of wiggle room and make sure that it's straight. So I thought that was a really neat trick, so I had to bring that in and try it out myself. And then we're going to add a little bit of bling because I cannot resist. You guys, I love sparkles and shine and glitter and bright colors. I could take all the things. It just makes me so happy after these cards are still displayed in my office, so that tells you. So That is the video I have for you this week. If you leave me a like, leave me a comment, consider subscribing if you have not. And if you are still with me at this point of the video, you know how much I appreciate you guys sticking around and watching the full video. It really does me well in the algorithm and all that jazz. So the Gemini comes with a bunch of extras. And I'm going to show them to you right now. They're a bunch of dies, and then there's an embossing folder as well. I want to give these away to one of you guys. So leave me a comment in this video and tell me what's your favorite dessert. That's kind of a random thing, so I won't mistake which people actually stayed. So tell me what your favorite dessert is. Leave me a comment, and in a couple of days I will pick a winner. I'll have an announcement for whoever won the giveaway. So yeah, make sure you leave me a comment if you stayed around this long, and thank you so much, guys. I'll see you again soon. Bye bye.